Hello. Welcome back to the deep dive. I actually have I have a bit of a challenge for you right off the bat today. I want you to panic just a little bit.
Starting with panic. That's a bold strategy for
I
today.
mean, it's a productive panic.
Right.
Here is the challenge. I want to know if you can, right now, whether you are driving to work or maybe you're folding laundry or sitting on the bus, can you narrate your entire morning routine in English?
Oh, wow.
And I don't mean the easy version, I don't mean just saying, I got up, I ate, I left.
Right, the textbook version.
Exactly. I mean the gritty, high-definition version of your morning. Can you describe the psychological struggle of fighting with your alarm clock? Can you describe the specific mechanics of your coffee machine? Or articulate that exact moment you transition from being a zombie to an actual human being?
It sounds deceptively simple, doesn't it? I mean, talk about your day is pretty much the very first thing you learn in any language class.
Yeah, day one stuff.
Right. But when you actually try to do it with precision, you realize that describing the mundane is actually one of the ultimate tests of fluency.
Exactly. And that is exactly why today we are doing something really special. We are cracking open a genuinely fascinating piece of source material. We are looking at a podcast called Snowcat Speaks English.
Yes, Snowcat Speaks English. It's a really wonderful resource. It's a show specifically designed for English learners.
And what's great is the vibe of it.
Totally. The pacing is deliberate, so the speed isn't too fast. The vocabulary is very accessible. It's not overly difficult. And the whole content is just really funny and lighthearted.
It's very relaxed. And the specific episode we are analyzing today is titled Learn English by Talking About Your Day.
Which fits your challenge perfectly.
Right. Now, you sitting there listening might be thinking, well, I already know how to talk about my day, but stick with us here. Because buried in this very simple, funny conversation between the two hosts of that show, Amy and Steven, is basically a masterclass in the simple present tense.
And we aren't just going to recap a grammar lesson here. That would be completely boring.
Go boring.
We are going to analyze how Amy and Steven use this accessible language to construct what I like to call a narrative of self.
Ooh, narrative of self. I like that.
We're going to look at the psychology behind their daily routines, the specific linguistic structures they use to bridge the gap between, robotic speech and actual human storytelling. And we'll see why something as seemingly boring as saying, I take a shower, is actually this massive cultural and linguistic goldmine.
I love that concept, narrative of self. It really makes my morning toast sound so much more important than it is. So let's introduce our guides for this journey. In the red corner, we have Amy.
Amy is sort of the classic teacher archetype in this dynamic. She's energetic, she's a very clear guide, and she absolutely loves explaining the rules of the language simply. She represents structure.
And then in the blue corner, we have Steven. Steven is the practice partner. He's the relatable everyman in the conversation.
He really is. He asks the questions we're all secretly thinking. He makes the little mistakes so we don't have to. And honestly, he just seems like a pretty chill guy who desperately wants his morning coffee.
He is a very heavily caffeinated individual, which we will get to. But Steven is crucial because he is the proxy for you, the learner. He allows us to see the application of all this grammar knowledge in real time. He isn't perfect, and that's exactly what makes him an effective learning tool.
So we have Amy, we have Steven, and we have our mission to master the art of talking about our day without sounding like a robot.
Let's just get right into it. The episode starts, logically enough, at the very beginning, the morning, the start of the simulation.
And right away, in the first few seconds of their dialogue, we hit a linguistic nuance that tripped up so many people. It's a distinction that seems small on the surface, but it's actually philosophically quite profound.
You were talking about the wake up versus get up dilemma.
Precisely. Stephen starts his daily narrative by stating, I wake up at 7 a.m., which is a very respectable time.
Very respectable.
Then, almost immediately, he clarifies his statement. He says, I get up at 7:15 a.m.
Okay, we need to unpack this gap. Because I feel seen, honestly. I feel a little attacked by this 15-minute gap.
It is the universal human experience.
It really is, and Amy jumps on this immediately in the source material. She breaks it down so clearly for the listeners. She says, wake up is mental. It is the exact moment your eyes open. It is the moment consciousness returns to your body.
Right.
But get up. That is physical.
Get up is the commitment to verticality. It is the moment you finally leave the warmth of the sheets and accept the harsh reality of gravity and employment.
It's the worst part of the day.
Oh.
But seriously, why does English need two completely different phrasal verbs for this one event? In a lot of other languages, a single verb like I rose or I awoke covers the whole process. Why do we split hairs here in English?
It's really about precision, and
Hmm.
honestly, it's about validating that snooze button culture we all live in. Psychologists actually have a term for this. They call it sleep inertia.
Sleep inertia.
Yeah, it's that groggy state where you are technically awake, your eyes are open, but your prefrontal cortex just hasn't booted up yet. You're not ready to make decisions.
Sleep inertia. I really like that. It sounds like a highly medical excuse I can give my boss. Just text him, sorry I'm late today. I was battling a severe case of inertia.
I'm sure he'd love that. But linguistically, by having wake up and get up as two distinct actions, English speakers can accurately describe that liminal space.
The scrolling time.
Exactly. If Stephen simply said, I get up at 7:0, but he actually stayed in bed until 7.5 time, he would technically be lying. But saying, I wake up at 7:0 allows him to lie there, doom scrolling on his phone, staring at the ceiling, maybe contemplating the vastness of the universe without being a liar.
It creates a narrative space for laziness. I deeply appreciate a language that caters to my laziness.
It creates a narrative space for transition. And for anyone learning the language, mastering this specific distinction is a huge step forward. It shows you understand the nuance between a state of mind and an action of the body.
Okay, so Steven successfully battles his sleep inertia. He wins. He gets up at 7.15. He is now vertical. What is his very first task? His primary objective for the day.
You go straight to the kitchen.
And here comes the lifeblood of the morning routine. The phrase he uses is, make a cup of coffee.
Let's stop right there and look at the verb, make.
Amy even chimes in during the episode here. She admits that she, quote, can't speak English without coffee, which is such a mood. I can't speak any language without coffee. I barely speak English with it.
It's the universal lubricant of human conversation. But let's look closely at that word, make. He doesn't say, I get coffee. He doesn't say, I drink coffee, even though he obviously does drink it a few minutes later. He says, make.
Because it implies a process, right? He isn't just magically finding a cup of hot coffee that appeared on his counter.
Exactly. It implies creation. It implies agency on his part. You are taking raw materials, water, coffee beans, heat, and you are actively synthesizing them into a tool for wakefulness. It's a very active start to the day.
It's a ritual. I think it's the key word here. In the simple present tense, which we use to describe our habits, saying, I make a cup of coffee, establishes a daily cornerstone. The rest of the day literally cannot proceed until this specific ritual is complete.
And notice how it sets the rhythm of his story. I wake, I get up, I make. It's subject, verb, object. It's the heartbeat of the morning narrative.
So we've got his timeline started, but life isn't just a robotic list of actions. We don't do the exact same things every single day with military precision. Sometimes we sleep in, sometimes we decide to drink tea instead of coffee.
And this is where the source material elegantly shifts into what I like to call the math of frequency.
The math of frequency. That sounds highly intimidating for a lighthearted podcast.
It's really just probability. Amy introduces these adverbs of frequency to help Stephen paint a much more realistic picture of his life. The source focuses heavily on three big ones: always, usually, and sometimes.
Let's break these down because I feel like these specific words reveal a whole lot about a person's character. Let's start with the absolute one. Always.
Always. The definition is simple: 100% of the time. No exceptions whatsoever.
Stephen uses this word for his coffee ritual. He says, I always drink my coffee while I check my phone.
Now, I want to challenge this a little bit. Does anyone truly do anything always? What if his home internet is down? What if he's run out of coffee beans?
That's true. It's a bit of a hyperbole, isn't it? A slight exaggeration for effect.
It is. But in the context of describing your narrative of self, using always is a rhetorical commitment. It tells the listener, you can count on this fact. This is a fixed, unbreakable rule in my personal universe.
It paints a vivid picture of Stephen as a creature of habit. Coffee equals phone. It's an unbreakable equation in his morning.
It's also a bit of a commentary on modern life, isn't it? Notice he doesn't say, I always drink coffee and listen to the birds singing. He said, check my phone. He connects himself to the digital world immediately upon waking.
It's a little sad, but deeply relatable. Okay, let's move down the ladder of probability. The next one is usually.
Usually. This implies a very high frequency. Most of the time. Let's call it maybe 80 to 90% of the time.
The source gives us a few great examples here. Amy says she usually takes a shower at night. Stephen says he usually goes to a cafe for his lunch.
I think Usually is arguably the most honest word in the English language. It allows for the inherent chaos of life. If Stephen decided to bring a sandwich from home one day, or if Amy took a morning shower because it was really hot outside, they wouldn't be liars. They just deviated from the usually.
It makes you sound flexible. It makes you sound human. If you only ever use always, you would sound like a computer program running a script.
I always wake, I always eat, I always walk.
Exactly. Usually adds the messy texture of reality to your story.
And finally, we have the middle ground, the wild card adverb. Sometimes.
Sometimes sits at roughly 50% of the time. It could really go either way on any given day.
Stephen uses this one to describe his social life at the office. He says he sometimes eats with his colleagues, and sometimes he eats alone. I love sometimes. Using it makes you sound complex. It essentially says to the listener, I have moods. I am multifaceted. Sometimes I feel social and outgoing, and sometimes I am solitary and need quiet.
So why does all this math matter for our listeners? Why are we spending time analyzing the word sometimes?
Because if you truly want to master the simple present tense, you absolutely need these adverbs. They're the difference between reading a stereo user manual and reading a biography. They allow you to express the probability and the flavor of your own behavior.
It's the difference between saying, I eat lunch, which is just a boring biological fact, and saying, I usually eat lunch with friends, but sometimes I eat alone, which is the start of an interesting story.
Precisely. It invites the listener to understand your actual lifestyle, not just your rigid schedule.
Okay, let's get back to Stephen's timeline. He is caffeinated always. He's checked his phone always. Now he has to deal with the biological reality of his physical form. He has to make himself presentable to the outside world.
We are now entering the hygiene and fashion sector of the morning.
The source gives us two essential phrases here. Brush my teeth and take a shower.
Again, we need to note the collocations here. The specific verbs paired with the nouns. You don't wash your teeth in English. You brush them. And you take a shower. You don't generally say you do a shower. You acquire it.
But here is where we get into a bit of a controversy in the episode. I'm calling this the Great Shower Debate.
This was a fascinating divergence between the two hosts in the source material. It reveals a deep, almost philosophical schism in the human population.
Stephen is firmly a morning shower person. He explicitly says that it helps him wake up.
He is using the shower as a physical stimulant. He is essentially using hydrotherapy to shock his nervous system into action. It connects right back to his battle with sleep inertia. He needs the physical impact of the water to activate him.
But Amy is firmly on team night shower.
She mentions that in the morning, she only washes her face. She vastly prefers to shower at night.
Which implies she views the shower as a wash off the stress of the day ritual. For her, it's a sedative. It's purely for relaxation and preparing for sleep.
It's fascinating, isn't it? The exact same action, standing under a stream of warm water, serves two completely opposite psychological functions depending entirely on the person's routine. Activation versus decompression.
And for a language learner, being able to express this preference saying, I prefer morning showers because, is a massive leap in fluency. You aren't just describing a physical action anymore. You are describing your rationale. You are showing your personality.
Exactly. Now, once our hosts are clean, or at least face washed in Amy's case, we have the very next step, get dressed.
Notice it's not put clothes, it's get dressed. It's the action of changing your state of being from pajama person to world-ready person.
Amy's routine is highly structured here. She details it step by step, she chooses her clothes, gets dressed, and then has breakfast.
Which brings us to the menu, the breakfast options.
Amy outlines what we could call a healthy start. She has toast, eggs, and tea.
Very classic, very balanced and nutritious. Contrast that with Stephen. We know from earlier that he had his coffee while checking his phone. The source material heavily implies his morning focus is almost entirely on the caffeine. Food seems secondary.
He might be one of those intermittent fasting people. Or maybe he's just running late. But look at the pattern of the verbs building up again. I wake, I eat, I drink.
It's almost hypnotic when you hear it listed out. I wake, I eat, I drink.
It really is. It's the primal beat of the day. It's basic biological needs being met through simple linguistic structure. This pattern subject, verb, object is the core rhythm of the entire episode. It's the solid foundation upon which all other, more complex English sentences are built.
So Stephen is caffeinated, he's showered, and he's dressed. Amy is fed, and she's had her tea. Now, the cruel reality of adulthood sets in. They have to leave the nest.
The transition from the private sphere to the public sphere, the commute.
The phrase they use is leave the house. Stephen leaves at exactly 8:30 a.m. and he goes to work.
Plot 'em.
By bus. Now, I have to ask about this. Why the word by? He is sitting on the bus. He is physically in the bus. Why do we say by bus?
English prepositions are famously a minefield for learners, but the general rule of thumb is that the mode of transport takes by car, by train, by plane, by boat. It answers the question of how you travel, rather than where you physically are located during the travel.
Right, unless you're walking. You don't say you go by foot.
No, you go on foot, because your feet are permanently attached to your body. You aren't utilizing an external vehicle to move yourself.
Good point. So Stephen is a public commuter. He's navigating the transit system. He arrives and uses the phrase, start work at 9:00 a.m.
Start work, another extremely key phrase. And look at his work environment. The source describes it very clearly for the listeners. He works in an office, he sits at a desk, and he uses a computer.
It's the quintessential modern white-collar existence. Sits at desk, uses computer. It's highly relatable, but also a bit static.
It reflects the absolute reality of the modern global workforce. For millions of people learning English, this is their daily reality. They desperately need the vocabulary to describe sedentary office work. It's no longer, I build barns or I harvest crops. It's, I input data and I attend meetings.
Which is exactly why the lunch break is so incredibly important to the narrative, won by 00 p.m. freedom.
Amy notes a really nice bit of linguistic flexibility here during the lunch discussion. She points out that you can say, have lunch or eat lunch. Both are perfectly acceptable and natural.
But what really caught my attention during this part was the social dynamic Stephen describes. We touched on this briefly with the sometimes adverb, but let's dig a little deeper into it.
The introvert moment.
Yes, the introvert moment. Stephen openly says he sometimes eats alone so he can read a book.
I think this is such a fantastic inclusion in a language learning podcast. Very often, older language tapes or textbooks portray everyone as these hyper-social robots who are constantly greeting each other and shaking hands all day. Hello, colleague. Let us eat lunch together.
Yes. Let us vigorously discuss the weather while we eat our sandwiches.
Exactly. It's exhausting. But Stephen validates the reality that sometimes, halfway through the workday, you just want to sit alone and read a book in silence.
It completely validates that eating alone is a perfectly valid daily routine narrative. You don't have to be the extroverted life of the party to speak good English. You can just be the quiet guy with the sandwich and the novel.
And knowing how to describe that, saying I read a book,
Yeah.
is just as functionally valuable as knowing how to describe a busy boardroom meeting. It's all about setting boundaries in your second language. Stating, I am eating alone today, is essentially a polite linguistic do not disturb sign.
So lunch is eventually over, the afternoon drags on, and finally the clock strikes 6:00 p.m.
Finish work.
The glorious release from the office. But now we have the journey home, and here we see another really big difference between Amy and Stephen's routines. We had the shower split earlier, and now we have the evening split.
This is the difference between active and passive recovery,
Stephen says that if the weather is nice, he likes to walk home from work.
which he specifically knows is good exercise and very relaxing. Think about his whole day leading up to this. He has been sitting at a desk for hours, staring at a computer. Walking home is the physical antidote to that. It's a gentle, passive transition back into his personal life.
But Amy is an absolute machine.
Amy goes straight to the gym for 1 hour.
After working all day, I honestly admire the dedication. She finishes a full day of work and immediately goes to a room to lift heavy metal objects or run nowhere on a treadmill.
The source material consistently portrays Amy as very active. She does the gym, plus she cooks her own meals. She is what we might call the maximizer. She actively uses her free time to optimize her body and health.
And Stephen is the restorer. He walks, he relaxes, he decompresses slowly.
Neither approach is wrong, obviously, but they require entirely different sets of vocabulary to describe. I go to the gym implies a specific destination and an intense activity. I walk home implies a slow journey and a mindset shift.
Let's look at dinner time next. Amy goes home from the gym and she cooks. She mentions that she really likes to cook pasta or rice with a lot of vegetables.
And linguistically, you can use make dinner or cook dinner here. Both work perfectly well. But then we get to the chores.
The dark, inevitable reality of domestic adult life. Wash the dishes.
Amy, being the maximizer, washes them manually. She stands at the kitchen sink, sponge in hand, scrubbing away at the plates.
A meditative, calming task for some people.
And absolute torture for others,
Yeah.
including our friend Stephen.
Stephen vehemently hates it. He explicitly says in the episode, I hate washing the dishes.
We need to stop right there and look at that word, hate. That is an incredibly strong word to use in a beginner language lesson. Up until now, we haven't seen much strong emotion in their routines. It's mostly been neutral facts. I go, I do, I eat. But right here, we get, I hate.
Why is that emotional spike so important for a language learner to hear?
Because expressing strong likes and dislikes is the very next layer of fluency. It's not just stating objective facts anymore. It's stating subjective opinions. It deeply humanizes the speaker. If you just say, I wash dishes, you sound like a household appliance. If you say, I hate washing dishes, you are suddenly a relatable person with feelings and frustrations.
And Stephen solves this emotional frustration with the magic of technology.
The dishwasher. He proudly declares, I use a dishwasher.
God bless whoever invented the dishwasher. But I really like that the source material includes this minor conflict. It makes the conversation so much more engaging to listen to. It's not just a bland statement like, I clean the plate. It's a miniature story. I hate this specific domestic task, so I found a technological solution to avoid it.
It creates a little spark of humanity and humor in the dialogue.
So the dishes are finally done, or at least loaded into the machine. Now we move to leisure time, the evening wind-down phase.
Both characters admit to a universal behavior here, sitting on the sofa.
The ultimate human resting position at 8:00 p.m.
And while on the sofa, they watch TV or look at YouTube. Stephen specifically mentions that he really likes watching movies. But then, right in the middle of this leisure discussion, we get this brilliant inception moment, the meta moment of the whole episode.
It is literally a podcast within the podcast.
Stephen casually mentions that part of his daily evening routine on the sofa is studying English.
And Amy's reaction is, of course, immediate validation. She excitedly calls it the best routine.
Well, of course she does. She's the host of the English Learning Podcast. She has a vested interest in this answer.
But there is a very specific, actionable piece of advice hidden in here. Stephen says, every day I study English for 15 minutes.
This is essentially the Atomic Habits approach to language learning. Small, manageable, consistent action. Notice he doesn't say, I lock myself in my room and study grammar for 5 hours every Sunday. He said 15 minutes every day.
It's highly achievable. And by embedding this specific advice directly into the fictional character's routine, the source material is subtly modeling the exact behavior it wants the listener to adopt. It's very clever instructional design.
It's a form of positive brainwashing, really. The subtext is, you are currently listening to a podcast about daily routines, and your own daily routine should permanently include listening to this podcast.
Circles within circles. I absolutely love it.
It also serves to completely normalize the act of studying. It treats studying English just like brushing your teeth or making a cup of coffee. It's no longer this massive chore. It's just something you naturally do as part of existing.
So Stephen has done his 15 minutes of studying. He's watched his movie on the sofa. The day is finally winding down. We are approaching the final steps of the timeline.
Bedtime. The official shutting down of the human operating system.
The pre-sleep ritual.
Yeah.
And the phrase here is, put on pajamas.
Another incredibly useful phrasal verb. Put on. Just like get dressed was putting clothes on for the public, put on pajamas is the specific private act of changing garments for sleep.
And then the critical step. Check alarm clock.
Essential. The universal modern anxiety of, did I actually set it? Is it set for 7 a.m. or 7 p.m.? You have to successfully close the loop on the day so you don't ruin tomorrow.
Stephen says he goes to bed at 11:00 p.m. But importantly, he doesn't just fall asleep immediately.
No, he incorporates one more habit. He reads a book for 10 minutes.
Such a healthy habit, getting away from the blue light of the phone screen. Honestly, this guy Stephen is really an idealized version of all of us, isn't he?
He really is. He walks home, he reads books, he studies languages daily. He's the balanced person we all aspire to be.
And then we finally reach the final act. The curtain closer on the day.
Turn off the light.
Scene.
It's the definitive, undeniable end to the narrative. The day has a very clear start.
Great.
Wake up when the eyes open, and a very clear end. Turn off the light when the eyes close. Light on, light off.
It's a complete, satisfying story arc. Our hero rises, our hero makes coffee, the hero battles the awful commute, the hero triumphs over the dirty dishes using technology, and finally, the hero sleeps.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting for our listeners who want to apply this. We've walked through the what of their days. Now we need to seriously look at the how. How do they link these events together?
The grammar glue.
Yes, the glue. Because if you just listed all of these things out in a row, I wake up, I drink coffee, I go to work, I eat lunch. You sound like a suspect giving a flat statement to a police detective.
We're were you on the night of the 15th, Stephen? I eat toast, I watch TV, I go to bed.
It's incredibly choppy. It's robotic.
Hmm.
So Amy smartly introduces time connectors in the review section of the episode to smooth all of this out.
These are the magic words that instantly turn a boring list into an engaging story. Let's run through them.
First. Then, after that, finally.
The Fantastic Four of storytelling.
First establishes the beginning. It signals to the listener, pay attention, the story timeline is officially starting now.
Then, and after that, handle the middle progression. They provide the momentum and imply a natural flow of events.
And finally signals the definitive conclusion. It's the narrative exhale. It lets the listener relax.
Stephen actually gives a summary of his day using these specific words, and the difference is literally night and day compared to a simple list.
He says it like this. First, I wake up. Then, I drink coffee. After that, I go to work. Later, I finish work. Finally, I go to bed.
It flows so beautifully. It has a real rhythm to it. It gently guides the listener through time without confusing them.
It's really about managing expectations. When I hear the word, finally, my brain knows the story is ending. As a listener, that helps me process the information much better. Using these words is actually a form of conversational politeness.
It's exactly like putting up road signs for your conversation. Turn left here, keep going, stop ahead.
Exactly. Without them, the listener is just lost in a chaotic sea of verbs. With them, they are on a comfortable guided tour of your life.
Now, before we fully wrap up this analysis, there is one final trap, one treacherous grammatical pitfall that Amy makes sure to warn us about at the end of the episode.
The dreaded third-person S.
Dun dun dun, the final boss battle of beginner English.
This specific rule is the absolute bane of English learners everywhere.
So, up until this exact moment in the episode, Stephen has been almost exclusively saying, I wake, I go, I eat, I hate. There is no S at the end of any of those verbs.
Correct. When you use I, you, we, or they, there is no S. But the moment you start talking about he, she, or it,
You got to add that S.
Amy cleverly challenges Steve to practice this by asking him to talk about his sister's routine instead of his own.
And suddenly, the fundamental rules of the game change. You can't say, my sister wake up, right? That's wrong.
Right, because my sister wakes up. You have to hit that S sound.
And you can't say, she drink tea.
I must be, she drinks tea.
And what about she go to school?
That changes to she goes to school.
And she watch TV.
She watches TV.
So why does this matter so much? Why is Amy stressing this single letter at the very end of a fun, lighthearted podcast?
Because, honestly, it is the single most common mistake people make. It's such a tiny sound, just that little hiss at the end of the word. But missing it immediately marks you as a beginner to a native speaker's ear.
It's the linguistic tell that you are still translating in your head.
It really is.
Yeah.
But if we want to get philosophical about it, it marks the psychological shift from talking entirely about yourself to actively observing the outside world. When you say, she walks, you are stepping outside your own ego and describing someone else's reality. That S is the grammatical marker of observation.
That is surprisingly deep. We can call it the S of empathy.
I mean, maybe that's a slight stretch, but let's go with it. The empathy S.
So bringing this all together, what does this actually mean for you, the listener? Amy and Stephen didn't just have a casual chat about coffee and dishwashers. They actually gave us a complete blueprint for communication.
They absolutely did. And they even ended it with a direct call to action.
The homework assignment.
Yes. Amy asks the audience a very specific question at the end. What is one thing you always do every morning?
She specifically wants you to practice using that absolute frequency adverb. For example, I always eat an apple, or I always listen to music on the bus.
It's a beautifully simple prompt, but it forces you to commit. It forces you to mentally identify a core habit and successfully articulate it in your new language.
So here is our extended challenge to you today. Don't just answer her one question. Think about your entire sort. First, then finally sequence. Think carefully about what your always is and what your sometimes is.
And ask yourself the big questions. Are you a wake-up person who lies in bed, or an immediate get-up person? Do you wash your dishes by hand to relax, or do you use the machine because you hate it? These tiny details aren't just vocabulary words. They are the fundamental building blocks of your personal story.
The source material, Snowcat Speaks English, might seem simple on the surface, but the underlying takeaway is genuinely profound. Your daily routine is your narrative. Learn to tell it well, and you learn to share who you are.
Absolutely. Don't just passively live your routine. Learn to narrate it.
That wraps up our deep dive into the world of daily routines and English grammar. A huge thank you to the fictional but incredibly helpful podcast hosts, Amy and Stephen, for guiding us through the complexities of a normal day.
It was a real pleasure to psychoanalyze their breakfast habits today.
We'll see you all in the next deep dive. Until then, keep making your coffee, keep remembering to turn off the lights, and keep telling your story.
Goodbye, everyone.